Hey everyone, I'm Eolia, a 28-year-old marketing executive. I love being creative and turning ideas into reality. My wedding day was perfect, like something out of a dream. I married my college sweetheart, James. The sun was shining, flowers were everywhere, and love filled the air as I walked down the aisle. I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. You look absolutely stunning, James whispered as I reached him at the altar. I smiled back, my heart racing with excitement. And you look incredibly handsome, I replied. The ceremony was beautiful, but I noticed James's father, Richard, sitting in the front row with a serious look on his face. He's always been a bit intense. At the reception, my best friend and maid of honor, Lisa, pulled me aside. Girl, you did it. I'm so happy for you, she said. Thanks, Lisa, I couldn't have done it without you, I replied, hugging her. As we mingled with the guests, I overheard Richard's golf buddies, Tom and Mike, making some inappropriate jokes. Hey James, better enjoy the honeymoon while you can. It's all downhill from here, Tom joked, laughing and nudging Mike. I rolled my eyes, trying to ignore them, but James squeezed my hand to reassure me. Later, I noticed James's mom, Eleanor, hovering around Richard, always seeking his approval. It was a little unsettling to see how she listened to him for every little thing. Eleanor, dear, get me another drink, Richard ordered. Of course, honey, right away, she replied quietly. The best part of the reception came when my boss, Victoria, walked over to us with a gift. Eolia, James, congratulations, I have a little something for you, she said, handing us an envelope. We opened it and were shocked. Tickets to Bali. Victoria, this is too much, I exclaimed. Nonsense, you two deserve it. Go plan your dream honeymoon, she insisted with a smile. As the reception wound down, James and I found a quiet corner. Can you believe it? We're married and going to Bali, I said excitedly. James pulled me close. I can't wait to start our life together. Eolia, just you and me, no distractions. Little did we know, our perfect bubble was about to burst. But in that moment, all I could think about was the amazing future ahead of us. If only I had known what was coming, maybe I could have been more prepared. But hey, that's life, right? Full of unexpected twists and turns. As we said goodbye to our guests and got ready to leave for our temporary apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was the way Richard kept looking at us or how Tom and Mike were whispering and laughing in the corner, but I pushed those thoughts aside. Nothing could ruin this perfect day, or so I thought. 2 days before our big trip, I was rushing around our apartment, checking things off my packing list. James, honey, have you seen the Bali tickets? I want to put them in my carry-on. James looked up from his laptop, frowning. I thought you had them. We tore the apartment apart, searching every drawer, every pocket. Nothing. Panic started to set in. Maybe we left them at your parents' place? I suggested, trying to stay calm. James nodded and called them. Mom, it's James. Have you seen our honeymoon tickets? I watched his face change as he listened, and my stomach dropped. He did what? James exploded. Put him on the phone now. James paced the room, his face turning red. Dad, tell me you didn't take our honeymoon tickets to Bali. I could hear Richard's loud voice through the phone. Don't be dramatic. I deserve a vacation after paying for your big wedding. The boys and I needed a getaway. Those were our tickets. Our honeymoon, James shouted. Oh please, you can go anytime. I had a small window with the guys. You'll understand when you're older, Richard replied. James looked at me, his eyes filled with anger and guilt. Dad, you need to come back. This isn't right. Don't be silly, we're already here. Make other plans. I'll bring you back a souvenir. The call ended, and James stood there, holding the phone, looking lost. I can't believe he did this, I whispered, tears starting to fill my eyes. James pulled me into a hug. I'm so sorry, Eolia. I don't know what to say. I pulled away, wiping my eyes. What are we going to do? James sighed. I don't know. Maybe we can book something else. But I could see the conflict in his eyes. He was angry, but not as angry as I was. The next day at work, I was still upset. As I passed Victoria's office, I overheard her on the phone. Yes, the deal's off. Richard's company has been causing us nothing but trouble. I'm starting to wonder if they're playing by the rules at all. I froze. Richard's company, James's family business? Victoria spotted me. Eolia, is everything okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine, just some honeymoon stress. Victoria gave me a sympathetic look. Oh, sweetie, is there anything I can do? I shook my head, though my mind was racing. What was going on with Richard's company? That evening, I talked to James. Honey, I overheard something at work about your dad's company. James tensed up. What about it? Victoria mentioned some problems, said they might not be playing by the rules. Do you know anything about that? I asked. James ran his hand through his hair. Dad's always been creative with business, but I'm sure it's nothing serious. But I could see doubt in his eyes. This was bigger than the stolen tickets, much bigger. James, we need to figure out what's going on, with the tickets, with the company, all of it, I said firmly. He nodded slowly. You're right, but, Ilya, this is my family we're talking about. I took his hand. I know, but we're family now too, and something isn't right here. As we sat together, planning our next move, I couldn't shake the feeling that our perfect life was about to get a lot more complicated, but I was ready to face it. No one messes with my honeymoon and gets away with it. With our honeymoon plans ruined, James and I tried to make the best of our time off, but the more we looked into Richard's behavior, the worse things seemed. We decided to visit Eleanor, hoping she might help. As we sat in her living room, she broke down, crying. I'm so sorry about your tickets, she sobbed. Richard, he's always been like this, controlling everything, especially the money. I reached out to hold her hand. Eleanor, has he always treated you this way? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. 4 years. He makes me feel so small, like I can't do anything right. James looked shocked. Mom, why didn't you ever say anything? I was afraid, she whispered. He threatened to leave me with nothing if I ever spoke up. My heart broke for her. This was worse than we thought. Later that week, my friend Lisa called, sounding upset. Ilya, I don't know how to tell you this, but I overheard something at the country club. What is it, Lisa? Richard's been telling people you're a gold digger, that you're only with James for his money. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. He said what? I asked, shocked. I'm so sorry, Ilya. I know it's not true, Lisa said. I confronted him, but he just laughed it off. I was furious. Thanks for telling me, Lisa. We'll handle this. When I told James, he was livid. I can't believe he'd stoop so low. Ilya, I'm so sorry. But the final straw came when James decided to dig into the family business finances. He spent hours looking through documents, growing paler by the minute. Ilya, he said, his voice shaking, my dad's been embezzling from the company for years. I sat down, shocked. Oh, James, what are we going to do? I don't know. This could ruin everything, the business, our family. I took a deep breath. James, we have to stand up to him. This can't go on. He nodded slowly. You're right, but, he's my father. I know, honey, but what he's doing is wrong, to us, to your mom, to the business. We have to stop him. The next day, I confided in Victoria about what we had discovered. She listened carefully, her face growing serious. Ilya, this is very serious. If what you're saying is true, Richard could face some severe consequences. I know, I said, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety, but we can't let him keep hurting people. As we were planning our next move, we got word that Richard was back from Bali. He swaggered into our apartment as if nothing had happened. Kids, did you miss me? Bali was fantastic. You should really go someday, he said with a smirk, but his grin faded as soon as he saw our faces. James stood up, standing tall next to me. Dad, we need to talk. About the tickets, about how you've been treating Mom, about the rumors you've been spreading, and about the money you've been stealing from the company. Richard's face went white. For the first time, he looked scared. I squeezed James's hand, feeling proud. This was just the beginning, but we were in this together. Richard's toxic behavior was about to end, and he had no idea what was coming. Over the next few weeks, we put our plan into action. James and I worked tirelessly, gathering every piece of evidence we could find of Richard's embezzlement and shady business practices. Look at this, James said one night, pointing to a spreadsheet. He's been siphoning off funds for years. I nodded grimly, and here's proof of him manipulating contracts. Victoria's going to want to see this. True to her word, Victoria used her connections to trigger a full audit of Richard's company. The day the auditors arrived, you could hear Richard shout from 3 floors down. What is the meaning of this? He roared. But it was Eleanor who delivered the final blow. With our support, she finally found the courage to file for divorce. I've frozen all our joint accounts, she told us, her voice shaking but determined. He won't be able to touch a penny. As the evidence piled up and the walls closed in, Richard showed up at our door. He looked haggard, desperate. Kids, please, he begged. I can explain everything. I'll make it right. I'll pay for a new honeymoon, anywhere you want to go, Richard begged. James stood firm. It's too late, Dad, we're done. You can't do this to me, Richard shouted. I'm your father. I stepped forward. A father doesn't steal from his children or spread lies about them. You made your choice, Richard, now live with it. We shut the door on his protests, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. The next few months were a whirlwind. Richard faced multiple fraud charges, and his business empire started to crumble. Tom and Mike, his golf buddies who'd enjoyed our stolen honeymoon, distanced themselves quickly. I always knew there was something off about Richard, Tom claimed, conveniently forgetting his part in it all. Eleanor, free from Richard's control, began to thrive. She started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping others escape toxic relationships. I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years, she told us over dinner one night. At work, Victoria called me into her office. Ilya, your integrity through all of this has been remarkable. We'd like to offer you a promotion. I was speechless. Thank you, Victoria, that means so much. Finally, almost a year after our wedding, James and I got our honeymoon. As we sat on a beach in Bali, watching the sunset, I reflected on everything we'd been through. You know, James said, squeezing my hand, I think we're stronger now than we ever would have been if things had gone smoothly. I nodded, leaning into him. We've learned a lot about standing up for ourselves and not letting toxic people control our lives. To us, James said, raising his glass, and to cutting out the poison and embracing the good. As we clinked our glasses, a sense of peace washed over me. We'd been through so much, but we came out stronger, wiser, and more in love than ever. That, more than any dream honeymoon, was worth celebrating. If you were in my shoes, would you have given Richard a second chance after he apologized and offered to pay for a new honeymoon? Or do you think cutting toxic family members out of your life completely is the right move, no matter what?